The vampire before him, the one who, in Dio's eyes, had the gall to call himself the King of London when he was sitting before a true king, launched towards Dio. Clearly, the lesson of what had happened to his subordinates hadn't reached his brain yet. His skull must have been a bit too thick. Fortunately for him, Dio was more than in the mood to teach him. He didn't even get out of his seat. Rather, Dio simply cocked his head to the side and opened his eyes widely. A concentrated beam of energy shot out of them, directly piercing into the vampire's throat and his heart. He looked surprised, as though he didn't realize Dio himself could do something like that. Was this not something normal vampires could do? Dio pondered to himself. He knew how vampires were normally turned from legends. A simple bite or drinking vampire blood, but he had been turned by a mask. He had never heard of anything like that before. So, was he special? He shook his head. It was a silly question. Of course he was special. Did the mask somehow make him more special than he thought himself as? That was better phrasing. It would explain why his minions were so much more potent than the others, why they were stronger. Perhaps they were simply made by a higher caliber of vampire. Which of course meant that the mask made higher calibers of vampire. The mask that just so happened to fall into his lap. Fate truly did favor Dio Brando. He gestured with a finger for his servants to lower him to the ground. As his seat touched the ground, he gently got up, leaning towards the now fallen vampire. It's become clear to me now that I'm a step above you, or rather that you're several steps beneath me. I could heal a wound like this in a matter of moments. He pointed at the hole to the so-called King of London's throat. But how long will it take you? I do hope it's not long. I would prefer to hear what you have to say. Might be difficult to hear that without a throat in hand. What are you? The vampire's voice came out a garbled mess. It was barely understandable under the waves of blood pushing down his throat. Almost like a person trying to speak underwater. Luckily for Dio, he was experienced in listening to people who he thought were beneath him. In fact, Dio often thought that listening to normal people might as well have been listening to animals, yet he understood them nonetheless. Understanding this buffoon shouldn't have been too much of a challenge for him. Good, so your vocal cords do still work. Dio put his hand on the side of the man's face. You must have some amount of willpower to keep talking. There must be a man worth something in you after all. Shame you're already a vampire. I might have had use of someone like you as an underling, had I turned you myself, of course. But there's no use in dwelling on the past. So, since you think yourself a king, give me your last royal address. Explain to me, what provoked this Dracula into the so-called final war? The vampire had some pride left in him, but that pride soon faded away as he saw the shadows gathering around Dio. The followers who had torn his followers asunder. He was in no place to disobey. The strongest got the others in line. That was how vampires lived. A priest in Wallachia took Dracula's bride, burned her at the stake. Dio clicked his tongue. Sentiment. He understood emotions very well. You have to understand them in order to play people properly. The same thing that he had done to Jonathan for years.